away. I'm not perfect in sinlessness, but I'm perfect in my heart's intentions. The days which broke me the most gave me the tools to build the most. And I'm back to running on my feet, 'cause giving up just ain't in my DNA. So that is a song. I wrote part of that during the fast about a week ago. And I finished up the song over the past few days. I've actually had that tune ready to go for like a year and a half. So I finally got a song that I could really make with it. But I wanted to start off with this song because, well, things are changing in the world. The world is changing, and I think it's only right that, therefore, we have to change and adapt. And what better way to change the way that things are moving other than with music and a new melody and a new way of going about things. So just to kind of bring everybody up to speed, that song is called The Pain Never Really Goes Away. I did post that on my YouTube community post yesterday. So anybody that wants to check that out, the whole thing, can check that out. But I want to talk about today why the world is really changing, and you can feel the energy swaying in certain ways. I've had a very eventful couple of days, really. Like, so many things have happened, and yet I'm still processing some things myself, so I'm not going to be talking about everything necessarily, but I do want to discuss how I saw this vision that I had, and this was about maybe 3 days ago, and ever since this vision, a lot of things have changed. And I was in my meditations, and I had a vision where God showed me the world on a disc, and the disc was flat. And I'm not saying anything about flat earth or anything. This is just the vision that I had, okay? So I had a vision of the earth on a disc, and there's this dome over it. And there were a bunch of different levers around, and there were certain kinds of archetypal figures that were on each of the levers. And so there were certain kind of themes of characters, like, for example, the jokester, the prankster, the king, the warrior, the magician, the lover, the witch, all these different kinds of archetypes that you would find in the psyche, I found in this vision. And they were all around, and they were all using the levers at certain times, and certain archetypes would be able to use other levers a certain way. And the way that they changed the levers, like if they put two levers over here, these archetypes, put down the lever over here, and this archetype over here put down a lever, the whole world would shift in the dome. And it got me thinking a lot about just what's happening in the world and why things are happening the way that they are. And because the petulant children that are in this world that may be grown adults, right? They're grown adult people, but they're not ready for this. They're not ready for the world to change. And this is something that I'm seeing over and over again. The women that are around are not prepared for what's to come. Like, there's many studies that are saying 50% of the women will be single by the time 2030 comes around. And pretty much that amount of men are already single at this point. And we don't have a population growing. We don't have the kind of art that we used to have. We don't have the kind of technology that is really pursuing us towards something that is godly. And even the people that say, Elon Musk is, trying to get us to Mars, and the chip, and, the Tesla bots and all this stuff. And that stuff is cool, sure, but how is it godly exactly? Because that looks to me a lot like fallen angel technology, especially the chip in the brain. I mean, that's just not humane as far as I'm concerned. And Elon Musk has even said, now look, I think at this time, as a net positive, Elon Musk is a net positive for humanity. I don't think he's a negative, but I'm just saying that there's a lot of things that could happen that could go wrong with what he's trying to build, and people that are not him are going to try to take advantage of that kind of stuff. And this is really, we're entering into 2025 here in a couple weeks, and I can just feel the whole energy of the world really shifting and changing before my eyes. Over the last week, I don't know if this is something that you guys have experienced, but I've seen more cops out and about in the last week than I have in probably the last 2 months. And I have no clue why. I have no clue what's going on. I've tried to see if there's anything going on in my community, and I don't see anything in particular happening. So I'm kind of thinking to myself, like, why are all these cops out and about? Like, it's almost as if they're preparing for something, and I don't know exactly what that is, and I don't know how anything is supposed to happen. But then we have the drone stuff, and apparently, allegedly, the drones are looking for nuclear and radioactive materials, allegedly. And now we've got glowing orbs that look like the prophecies from Ezekiel in the sky. And I have no clue how to tell if these are real. I think we need to be questioning everything that comes out at this point, especially if the government says they don't know about something. We need to really, really be questioning whether or not these things are really happening. And I think it's just the proper thing to do, because look at what they did to the pandemic. I mean, they literally lied to us for years now, and they're not going back on it. So what makes you think that they're going to be telling the truth about potential aliens? Okay, like, so all this is going to say is that there's a lot of levers in the spiritual realm being dropped down and put up, and et cetera, because that's what the vision was showing me, was that there's certain archetypes that are now taking over the collective consciousness, and there's a certain shift that's happening. And there wasn't much said in the vision that I had, but we can tell that just from the events that are happening, not just socially and relationship wise, but also just in the grand scheme of things. I mean, war is still on the horizon. War is still on the horizon and happening. We've got a potential nuclear bomb from last night. I don't know if it's nuclear. It sure looked nuclear. If nuclear weapons are a thing, I'm not saying they are, I'm not saying they're not, but it seems to me like there's a lot of different moving parts happening. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start out with this song that I wrote, is because as godly people, we may not be perfect in sinlessness. We may not understand the ways of the world and why things are happening the way that they are. But what we can do is we can be perfect in our intentions. And just because we fall into sin doesn't necessarily mean that we're imperfect in our hearts. And I'm not saying that you should lean on your own heart and your own understanding more so than the Most High. I'm just saying that if your heart is really pure, if you're really saved, of course you're going to sin, or be tempted to sin, rather. Like, yes, there are some scriptures that say that we cannot sin. If a man is walking righteously, I don't remember the exact phrasing of the verse, but if a man is walking righteously, he cannot sin. So maybe somebody can put that in the comments there. But ultimately, what exactly does that mean? It means that if your intentions are correct, meaning that you're intending for good, but you maybe fall into a transgression and iniquity, and because sin, there's like levels of sin, and I think this is what Dante, from Dante's Inferno, the Divine Comedy that he wrote, Dante does really well in describing the levels of sin and why there are levels of sin. And I think it goes to show also that in our own world that we live in today, there are levels of sin. And some of them, if you fall into it accidentally, there are certain ways that you're going to be punished for it, sure, but it doesn't mean that you have to stay there. And that's what's so cool about God, really, because he gives us the ability to choose whether or not we're going to be going one way or another, and things are going to happen one way or another, but we can always make a way back from the temptations. Like, God always has a way to restore the path that leads to righteousness if you really desire it. And that's the key thing, right? That's the key thing. So you have to really desire this kind of change. You have to really desire this kind of building of something new. And this is also one of the reasons why in the lyrics I said, the days which broke me the most gave me the tools to build the most. I'm sure you guys out there have felt that in this world, when you are at your lowest, those are when the biggest decisions of your life really happen. And those are the decisions that really make or break you. And fortunately, I made enough decisions when I was down and out to lead me to a better place in my life and to be doing what I'm doing today. And thank God for that. But if it were not for the decisions that I made, and of course, like, I'm not perfect at making decisions nowadays, but I am a man of my word. I'm not perfect in the sense of sinlessness, but I am a man of my word. I do follow through on what I promise to do, and I do whenever I make a vow or a loyalty to something or someone, like, I follow through with it. And anybody that really knows me understands that. And they know that I'll tell them exactly how it is and why this is, and that's that. That's just the way that I operate as a man. I just don't believe in not living by your word, because let's put it like this, right? If you're saying something and yet you don't have the discipline to follow through with what you're saying, what makes you think anybody else is going to want the desire or the discipline to listen to you? Like, what makes you think that people are going to want to have the desire or the discipline to listen to what you have to say if you don't even listen to who you are? And if you're making certain promises to yourself and you're not following through with it, like, why should anybody listen to you? Especially as a man. You know, it's one thing for a woman to do what women do. You know, rarely nowadays do their words match their actions. But when you're the one as a man, you're supposed to be the leader. How can people really trust you as a leader if you're not following through on what you say? And that's one thing that all my critics may not be able to understand about me, but they have to respect, is because I mean what I say. And I think people that have this kind of mentality of meaning what they say and doing what they say they're going to do, the energy is shifting in our favor, and it's showing in the world. Okay, it's showing in the world, and it's almost like, because I've seen all these cops and because I've seen all these Jezebel women, I might make a video on this later about the Jezebels coming back. They're making man, they do not want to be alone for the holidays, man. They do not want to be alone for the holidays. And I don't even celebrate the holiday season anymore. I just don't, because I see it as pagan, and I see the worst in people come out of these times. From October to December, every single year, it's like the worst in people come out. And people will always say, well, it's supposed to be a time for the best. And sure, like, I think that's always going to be a good time to be your best, is to be your best all the time. And of course, we're all not going to have perfect days, but we should continue to strive to be who we are and to to live up to our own standards and not demand anybody else to necessarily live up to those standards, but lead by example. And that's exactly what I intend to do for the rest of my life. I do not ask anybody to do anything that they don't want to do. I don't force anybody to do anything. And that's what the world wants us to do. The world wants us, the system wants us to be so in its will that we don't have a will of our own. See, the thing is with God, even with God, like when he wants us to be in his will, us choosing to be in his will to begin with takes our decision. It takes our decision to be with his will. And that's exactly what I want. I want to be a vessel for the Most High. I want to work for the Most High in any way, shape, and form that I can. And so I don't really, because here's the thing, once you get to a point on your walk with Christ, it's like, yeah, you don't really have a will of your own. Like you do, but you don't. What you will is what the Father wills. And it's the Father's will is moving through you because you've submitted to the Father. You've submitted to the mission of the Most High God. And it's not about, as a man, like you can still be assertive and assert yourself as a man while following and submitting to the Most High. But that's the thing. I don't see anybody as above or below me except for God. God is above me. I don't see anybody else as above or below me. I'm going to be leading in some ways. I'm not going to be leading in others, depending on the experience and such. Like, obviously, I have no idea how to build a brick house. I have no idea how to build a brick house. Like, I know the basics, of course, but a bricklayer, a professional bricklayer knows way more about bricklaying than I do. And so if I was a bricklayer with a bricklayer, like I'm learning how to lay bricks for the first time, I'm going to submit to the will of the bricklayer who knows what he's doing about bricklaying. It's simple. It doesn't take rocket scientists to be that way and like to think this way. It's crazy. But that's just the way that I think. That's just the way that I move about things. And so, especially when it comes to the spiritual realm, I'm going to be submitted to the Most High God. And God's going to reveal certain things to me on his time, the way that he sees that I need to be seeing these things. And that's that. I don't really question, of course I can question if I want clarification and such, but if God just tells me to do something, I'm obedient. I don't need to ask him why all the time. In fact, like 90% of the time now, I don't even ask him why. I just do it because I know that God wants me to be doing this, even though I don't understand why. I know that he knows why I'm going to be doing this thing and why I'm going through certain things. But anyways, guys, as the world changes and the world shifts, I think it's going to become in favor of the most righteous and honorable, and they're going to be standing out like a sore thumb. And I think that's why it's going to be in favor for them. And so that's just what we have to do. We have to keep doing what we need to do, stay prepared and move forward and move in accordance to that which is before us. So with all that being said, if you do want to join the Regal Change Academy, you can join the free Discord or the paid academy. We do have the Art of War class series coming up December 21st, so just in a few days here. Saturday it starts. So if you want to sign up, now's the time for that. Specifically for that paid community. We also, in the paid community of just a regular membership, you get a bunch of other different kinds of classes available and resources available, as well as the godly community itself, because that is really what is most important. Is having that network of people is really what's going to be most valuable. We don't have any trolls. We don't support trolls. Like, we have people that are serious, or they're not in the academy. That's just as simple as that. And so we also have two Bible study classes and sessions per week, as well as a Regal assembly where we congregate about anything and everything going on. So those are going to be included with the paid membership there. And I want to thank everybody and appreciate everybody that's been moving from the YouTube platform over to X and Rumble. I appreciate your guys' support. And with all that being said, peace be with you. Till next time.